New Thought Media Network. We are a global broadcast network of positive music, media, and entertainment, inspiring humanity's evolution along the journey of enlightenment and creating a world of love, peace, empowerment, and prosperity for all. New Thought Media Network. Positively inspiring.
Hello. Happy Wednesday. This is Rockin the Love. I'm Robyn.
And I'm Gil. And we are happy to be with you today. This is the last Wednesday in February of 2025. And what else is it? Is it an important day? I think it might be.
Okay.
Well, it is to me because it's your birthday.
Yay!
Yay!
Birthday!
Happy birthday.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I love it when February ends because I feel like the first 2 months of the year are like the fast months. People are always like, oh, if January and February are so short. And then at least then March, you're kind of into a rhythm. Like the holidays are really over. You stop saying Happy New Year, and you can kind of just live into the year.
Well, it makes sense because January and February, if you add them together, average out to less than your normal 2 months of any of the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Since they come out to 29 days apiece, or something like that, less than 30 days apiece. So they truly are the shortest ones.
They are the shortest ones. So welcome. If you haven't been here before, Gil and I are a married couple. Married for a very long time now. It'll be 23 years.
23 years in April. Yeah.
Yeah, who knew?
Who knew? And the last almost year of that, we've been mostly together here in Albuquerque.
We have. Because we lived apart for a while. Just doing work in different places, but we are together again. So today we are talking about why can't we be friends? And I didn't tell my producer that, but the title is on a banner in our place, our secret place,
secret hiding place where we put banners.
So why can't we be friends?
Why can't we be friends? I shouldn't sing, should I?
No, you shouldn't.
No, okay, sorry.
Because it goes, why can't we be friends? That one.
That's a different one.
I know. That's what I said. It's that one.
Oh, okay.
That's where the title was inspired from. So anyway, why can't we be friends? So we're going to be talking about that later on in the show. So hopefully you'll stick around and hang out with us. We'd appreciate it if you would like us. And leave a comment. Let us know where you're signing in from and watching or listening or whatever you're doing, because there's so many ways you can do that. You can do it on YouTube. You can do it on Facebook. You can do it on New Thought Media Network, and all of those places are good places. So
this where we at? It's been a very eventful week for a lot of us, and I'm just grateful that it's continuing, and that I'm just learning that I really need to anchor into what I know instead of what it looks like. Got a few reasons to say that. Some of them global, some of them very local. But it's an important thing. It's an important thing to walk in what I want, to walk in what I know, instead of waiting for it to show up.
It is an important thing. And as you say that, I will add to that, it's a very important thing for me to do as well, because I'm thinking, where is everybody? I totally expected you to have a surprise party here for me today, for there to be all kinds of people here surprising me and saying hello. And what? Anyway, so yes, living in reality is a good thing, although sometimes it keeps you going to live in your own world. So that's my 2 cents worth on that. So again, let us know. So talk to us in the chat. Let us know where you're watching from. Yeah, it's nice though. I mean, this is a good week. Technically, like it's nice that it's starting to have seasons here again, or a different season, and it's been sunny and warm and
very nice. Yes. Are you reading something?
No, I'm looking at you. I'm like, where are you?
I'm looking at you like, where are you?
Okay, well.
Okay.
Back to us both being here. So, I guess it must be time for the good news.
It must be.
All right.
Holy Lord. Okay, so here's the good news today that I have for you all, and that is, did you know that mice know first aid?
No.
No. All right, so there's been an experiment where they would anesthetize a mouse and put it in with some other mice. And what they found was that the other mice would begin grooming it and licking it, and then they would start to try to do some more physical interactions. And in at least 50% of the cases, they would literally reach in and pull the tongue out. So they would do exactly what we do when we are starting the process of resuscitating someone, and that's open their airway, which is quite fascinating. Right?
It is fascinating and not at the same time. Right?
Right.
I mean, anytime we do these animal stories, I'm like, I guess that makes sense. I mean, why would it be any different? So go on.
Right. So they, the other piece that was fascinating was, if I read it right, I believe it said about 80% of the mice that were exposed to the other mice when they were sedated would come out of it much quicker and better. The ones that were not exposed to the other group, that were just left to recover from it, didn't have the same results. So in fact, whatever they did supported the mouse in getting better.
So like the mice that got the other mouse brought them cheese or chocolates,
mostly wine.
They got better faster. That's crazy.
Yeah.
But I mean, it makes sense, right? It's community.
It's all about community. It's all about realizing that we're all connected. It's all connected, and them realizing that they're connected. That each one of the well-being of the group is important, right?
Yeah.
And it's not just I'll cast them aside. And maybe perhaps, now they did say in here, we have to be careful not to anthropomorphize their actions too much, because we assume they're doing what we're doing for the reasons we do it. However, I have to say we also anthropomorphize on the other side and say, we assume animals are just going to treat other animals like we treat other humans, badly. So, and ignore them when they're down. So it's a very interesting thing. Very interesting thing.
Well, that is interesting. I mean, and yeah, it's interesting that you bring it into that context.
Yeah.
So my story is about an 87-year-old man who went viral for delivering party invitations door to door in his neighborhood. Excuse me. And this is about a man from Pennsylvania. And he's lived on his block, I think, for like over 15 years. And he's just an old neighborly guy. And he went and he knocked on someone's door, and she opened the door, and she'd seen him a few times around, and but she'd only lived there 5 or 6 months. And he introduced himself, and he said, "Hi, I'm Doug from across the street," and invited her over to the house for a party. And he said, "This is an invite to the party that he has on February 15th, and that he didn't want to leave it in the mailbox because he wanted to connect with her." And he just told her that he likes to have a party and invite all the neighbors and invite everyone so that people can connect, because he thinks it's so important for people to connect. And she posted it on social media, and it went viral, and they had over 2 million views. And yeah, and she went to the party, and it was great and all that. But just that concept, the same concept in some ways that we're going to talk about today, of the connection and people connecting. And he said that his wife's been gone now for some years, and so this is just his opportunity to connect. And they got in touch with his daughter, and who lives like in San Francisco. And she said, "Oh no, that's my dad. He's way more social than I am. He's got way more friends than I do. And that even despite his age, he does more than she does, because she's shyer and all of that. But yeah, just his way of connecting people. And he loves writing letters, and some people that had seen him go viral wanted to write letters with him, and he's just thrilled with that. And he just keeps doing what he does to connect us. And it just reminded me of one of the ways people stay connected and how to do that.
He also seems like a bit of a gamer. His party is listed as going from 4 p.m. till the cops come. So
yeah, that's true. That's what it said on the invitation. 4 p.m. till the cops come. Well, he's 87. He's probably had a few good parties in his day. Anyway, so those are our good news stories. So that's, there's a lot of good stuff going on in the world that helps us connect and just be aware that it's so much bigger than we think, or smaller than we think, however you want to look at it. But it's just, it doesn't have to be hard, is my opinion. So when we come back, we will talk about why can't we be friends? What is there to connecting, and why, and what makes that an important thing to do? And come back, because it's my birthday, damn it. Okay, we'll see you in a minute after these words on New Thought Media Network.
Get inspiration in an instant. God calls are the gentle and uplifting moment of truth to help you remember that the bright light of God's love is shining right now as you.
It's your God Call with Reverend Bill.
Start your 2-week free trial today, and you'll get a phone call 4 times a week from Reverend Bill with an uplifting half-minute message filled with insight, wisdom, story, and fun.
Let your light shine.
You can answer the call to listen to it live, or let it go to voicemail so you can hear it later. After the free trial, your subscription is just $5.95 a month. The details are at godcall.org. God calls are disruptive, intentionally.
Whenever you write something, put on a gold star.
They take you away from your routine to remind you about the truth of who you really are. They come at random times between 8:15 a.m. and 6 p.m., so you won't be expecting them. And somehow, the message is exactly what you need to hear at the time.
Magic is loose in the world.
It's a moment of motivation in the middle of your day. Find out more and start your 2-week free trial now at godcall.org.
Please help us say thank you to our organizational sponsors, including the Hefferland Foundation, Affiliated New Thought Network, International New Thought Alliance, Science of Mind Archives and Library Foundation, Center for Spiritual Living Denver, Center for Spiritual Living Midtown, New Thought Philadelphia, Planned Happiness Institute, Summit Center for Spiritual Living, One Heart Retreats, Center for Spiritual Living on the Lake, Unity Kitchener, Unity Spiritual Center Ottawa, Om Center for Spiritual Living, Satya Center, Begin Within Ministries, Center for Spiritual Living North Jersey, Unity of Savannah, and the Center for Spiritual Living Seattle, as well as all of our individual donors. Thank you for being part of the New Thought Media Network. Please like, share, and subscribe. New Thought Media Network, positively inspiring.
Hello, we are back on Rockin the Love. I am Robyn.
And I'm Gil, and we're here to talk about why can't we just be friends?
So why don't you tell them a little bit about why this topic came up and why it's important to you?
Well, I really have realized that we are in a time where we need to really realize that we're all connected, and that what I do affects what other people do, and what they do affects me, and that it's not okay for me to sit by when, you know, kids are being pulled off a bus and deported because they're not on an official school bus, they're on a chartered school bus. So therefore it's not a school bus, therefore the ICE can raid it according to the law, and pull young people out who are basically growing up to be decent citizens in our country. That's why they're on the bus, because they're traveling to be in sports activities. But my point is that's a tip of the iceberg. But the thing is that all these people who've been fired, all these people who have been unjustly removed from what they're doing, or told they can no longer do something, this is not just about them. It's about all of us. And I think all of us need to find the ways to stand in integrity, because if we wait, there's not going to be anything to stand in integrity for. And it's going to happen to us, just like it, if it hasn't happened to me yet, it'll find its way to me. I thought about this earlier, with some of the stuff that I've read, that it does not escape me that our spiritual center could be shut down because we don't attune to the right religion, and that I could be told I can't speak this information anymore. I've never thought that in my life, ever. But looking at, quote, everything has to go through the White House. I read about it when I was in high school. Then I lived through it in 1984 and it didn't happen, but apparently 40 years later, it's on the move. So there you go.
You're equating that with the book 1984
Yep.
by George Orwell.
Yep.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting time. So I think, and so I think like, I think there's a basic structure that isn't always in place everywhere. I mean, us in New Thought, that are actively practicing or going to a center or taking classes or reading books or whatever it is you do. I think there's an awareness, and but I also think there's a big bubble around us because we're in contact with like-minded people a lot of the time. Like, I forget when I go out sometimes and catch a glimpse of someone else's conversation or read something that's gone on. I'm like, oh my God, you know. Um, so let's talk about how it begins and how do we begin to um, see each other as one, or
Well, I think there's two things in there, and um, I mean, one of them is that we have to maintain that there is no enemy. We have to maintain that everyone who appears to be on the quote other side of things is still one of us, and we're still one with them. And that, for me, is probably the hardest piece to maintain. Um, and then also to maintain that, if there's inequity and injustice with those that we maybe don't normally interact with and don't normally know and aren't in our face, that doesn't mean it's not okay. It's still not okay. And it's still something about standing with our fellow people and making sure that the way, to the best of our ability, the way our country works, the way our cities work, is fair and just for everyone there. So everyone has the opportunity to have a relatively peaceful, decent life. Some people will choose to be angry at everybody all the time, and that's their choice. Some people will choose to do things that, take drugs or whatever that cause them to be incapable of functioning, and that's their choice. But it still doesn't mean that we push everybody out and we assume whenever something happens that, oh, it's somebody who somehow doesn't deserve the friendship, doesn't deserve the caring, doesn't deserve the compassion, because everybody does ultimately.
yeah, I hear you, and obviously I agree with you. And what it brings up for me is, you touched on it a little earlier, but that feeling of other,
Mm-hmm.
and so, I mean, I think in our society, here in the United States, especially, that we're othered all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's because we're too tall, too fat, too thin, don't have the right fit, didn't go to the right school, didn't grow up in the right place on the right side of the tracks. I mean, there's so many things that I think, I mean, you hear the teenager in our house.
Mm-hmm.
I'm him. It's like, and I'm constantly saying, can you just be you? Because it's like everything is outside of ourselves.
Right, which therefore then we can kind of do that othering thing, because that's not a part of me. That's not who, that's different. They're different. And when there's problems, it's not because of me, it's because of somebody out there.
Right. So how do you do that? I mean, how does one do that in this world? And, I mean, we adults that have gone through a fair amount of life can probably jump to that place quicker than a teenager or something.
Sure.
But like, what would be the steps? Like, how do you even begin?
Well, I think you begin with with learning to like yourself, learning to realize that you yourself are of value and deserving of compassion and all of that. Because I can't see that in other people if I can't see it in me. And I mean, I let me rephrase that. I can't give it to other people if I can't see it in me.
Mm-hmm.
Because the reality is, often we see things in other people and pretend that they don't exist in us. But the need for compassion, the need for love, the need for understanding, the need to be treated with dignity and respect applies to all of us. Some of us don't treat ourselves that way, don't know how to treat ourselves that way, don't even realize we're not treating ourselves that way. I mean, and it comes in all forms. It comes, I mentioned somebody that may be on drugs, but it comes in the forms of people that work too much and don't take care of themselves, and in the form of people that live with people who abuse them because they can't make the jump that they're important enough to change the situation. There's all different reasons, and most of us have one or two of them. So we have to work through our own feelings about our own stuff around what we're not right. How I'm the other somehow. I have to move past being the other to myself. And then I can start inviting others into the circle to be part of the circle instead of being on the other side and being on the outside and being othered. I think that's, where it starts.
Yeah, I hear you. I mean, it's very complicated, I think.
Yeah. How complicated?
Very.
Can't we just be friends? I mean, I don't mean that as flip as it sounds. I mean,
well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, in order to be friends, then we also need to be tolerant of the differences, and it's not this is the way it should be, or that my way is better than your way. It has to be a learning of, what's possible and what's different and why and how and what that really means. What you do with that information.
I think it's also learning how to treat others, particularly when it feels as though they are on the wrong side of whatever's going on. They're somehow a part of something that should be different, that they're not treating people fairly or whatever. And somehow we have to be the person we want them to be at some level. They have an excuse and a reason for treating somebody unjustly, and I have an excuse and a reason for treating them unjustly because I don't think they're right. And if I can't become that person who can truly see that we're all connected, because I can acknowledge in myself where I see myself in them, and I can have compassion for that, and I can invite them into my circle and listen, not just tell, but listen. Then that's another, that's where it's going to happen.
Yeah, I hear you. It's interesting. I think that, when you say, what did you say about you have to know yourself?
Mm-hmm.
I think that is really key in so many ways. And you have to really not only know yourself, but believe when we say you are a unique way that God is happening on this planet, and that there's nobody else like you. Because while there are always going to be similarities and cultural similarities and things that we can connect with that are similar, there are also differences. Just because I'm, one ethnicity or another, it doesn't mean I'm going to do it the way that the stereotypical or the most popular way of being is going to be. And I think the importance of that is really learning. I mean, now I'm going to break it down by race, or culture, but is learning that we don't all do it the same, no matter what we are.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's really key, because whether it's whether we're exploring on a racial basis or not, there are those cultural things that will tear us apart. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Well, there's an assumption that somehow there isn't something deeper behind any of that. That because someone acts in a certain way or shows up as a certain person, we assume, or tend to assume, that we know the reasons why they do that and what the situation is and why they're where they're at. And we don't. We don't know how much money they have, where they grew up, how their family was, whether or not, they had to survive on the streets when they were 12. I mean, any of those things, all possible. All possible. Maybe they emancipated themselves and became a millionaire and established their own company. All those things are possible, but we don't know the story. And if we assume when we see them in a certain situation that either they're acting what they're acting because of, like that means they're a mean person, that means they're not whatever, or even we assume that means they're really benevolent. It may not be the case. We're putting that on them. What we need to do is be in their space and be willing to be in connection, and to understand that as unique as I am, they are. As unique as you are, I am. And part of that thing is honoring it in ourselves enough that we can stand and be the unique person, even when someone else wants to tell us that that's not okay.
Well, yeah. I mean, so don't I know that? My whole life has been that, people telling me I'm not this enough or I'm not that enough. Because I'm multiracial, I have people telling me, oh, you're not black enough, or you're not white enough, oh, you're not this enough. Oh, you speak Spanish? Why do you speak Spanish? I mean, why can't I just speak Spanish?
Well, I can't. I don't know.
But if I'm black or white, why can't I speak Spanish? I mean,
right.
You know what I mean? And I mean, yes, I'm Mexican too, but that's not why I speak Spanish. I mean, yes, it is because I wanted to learn and I wanted to be educated, but not because it came down through the ages kind of thing. So, I run into that all the time, and it's like, so I did and do have to decide, look, I'm just me. This is who me is, and this is what I am. And that's okay for me. But I know other people have a challenge with it, and they want to prove their blackness or their whiteness or their, for whatever reasons, which is fine. But I mean, I think, so for me, it's always been like with other people, like their willingness to explore who I am, as opposed to judging who I am based on the labels of my makeup.
Based on what they don't know, just based on assumptions from very surface things that they know.
Well, based on what they think they know about.
Well, that's what I mean.
Yeah.
Whatever they think they know about you, then, and when I say they, really, it's all of us do it. But we we see someone, we think we understand something about them, or who they are, where they came from, or what they're about, and then we do all the assumptions on that about what that means for who they will be in an interaction and all that stuff. And then when an interaction happens, we then go back and judge it based on all of the previous stuff. And now we have so much information that's not accurate. It's really, now we have to dig out of it with somebody, with another person. And I think this time is one where we have to be so compassionate with one another to really listen and to be honest about our own understanding of the world and feelings, and also to be willing to step in when someone else needs support, when someone else is not being treated fairly, when someone else is not, regardless of what we think we know about them. Because it would be so easy to go, well, those people aren't that important anyway, and they're not doing the right thing, and they're criminals, and they're whatever, we don't know that.
Well, it takes me to Jane Fonda's speech the other night at the SAG Awards, when she said something about, I'm paraphrasing, but she said something about, being awoke. And she's like, awoke just means that you give a damn, and she kept going. But it's like giving a damn is super important, because it's like, where, until people are willing to ask and not assume, and to really get to know somebody, not just based on who you think they are. And I think, and you've heard me say this a million times, Gil, but you people haven't, that, I blame my people just as much, even though they're usually the ones that are being the victimized people. But I think that, as a Black person, we scream a lot about, oh, white people this and white people that, and they don't know, and how da. But as being a Black person in this body that appears white, I can tell you that people don't know about what it's like to be white either. And so, I know I'm the ultimate illusion, but it's like, until we can really figure it out, because I don't know, maybe I'm not right, but I think that I don't believe that this all started out intentional. I don't believe that it started out to hate, or to, I guess it's always that competitiveness, but I don't really think we started out to be better than. We were just trying to live together, and you had to do what you had to do to, survive. Does that make sense?
Kinda. I kind of got lost in that last part.
Sorry.
I was trying to think of what you were referring to.
Yeah, well, I was way back in slave days in my head, so the journey went all over in my head. But the point is, nobody. Assuming is what's going to kill us all.
Right, and also going backwards and going, well, this, and this, therefore, is going to kill us as well. We have to go, here's where we are. This is what we have. Now what? Yes, it would appear that there's an incredible money grab happening in the United States. It would appear there's a total lack of compassion or interest in the rest of the world. And that's not who I want to be. That's not who I want the country to be. That's not what I see as the legacy that we are. And somehow we have to show up as what we desire. And we have to be that to all people, not just to the ones we decide we like better. That's where the trick comes in for me, because it would be so much easier if we could say, just fight on the side of justice and everything is great. And I think that's super important. But we can't go on the side of justice and do something that would violate the integrity and whatever else of a person or persons on the other side of that, even if we believe they're on the other side of justice. Does that make sense? I mean, really, it goes right to our justice system when you say that, you can't try a person twice. If you've already tried them, that's it. If you can't assume someone's guilty until proven they're innocent, until it's proven that they're guilty. And even then, sometimes that doesn't matter. But the point being that we start in a position of treating people the best we can and hoping that they will continue to respond from that place and doing our best to work that way. We still can disagree with them and tell them that we don't agree and say, I don't want to have that happen. And that's not I'm going to stand in a different position. But we also can't assume that they're evil, mean, horrible people because of that. Some of them are, but most of them aren't.
Well, this is a big topic. I feel like I'm being quiet, but there's so much to think about when you're saying what you're saying. So I go back to the question, though, why can't we be friends? And I think that, so what's the answer to our question? Is it an inability, unwillingness to be open to something new or something different or possibility?
I think it's the general thing that we don't want to deal with ourselves, and we don't want to deal with our fears and people not liking us and getting into a situation where we're afraid we'll lose our money, we're afraid we'll lose our spouse, whatever it is. We're afraid of losing something. And so instead of dealing with that fear and acknowledging it and going through and working through where it's coming from and moving to a different place, we continue to function from that space. If you're functioning from that space, then we can't become anything else. And I think if you look at much of what's going on, we are dealing with people who have not done any self-examination. They don't like themselves, and they don't know how to. They really don't have a clue. And if you really ask them to sit down and be honest about who they are, they couldn't do it at this point. That doesn't mean they can't do it. And I think that's the key to this whole thing, is inviting people to continue to grow in and of themselves, that we can grow together.
Yeah, okay.
And we can't get people to grow and acknowledge things if we are on the attack.
Well, that's true. Or if we're on the attack or on the defensive, or
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah.
And so I think about the current situation and where you started talking about ICE raids and things like that. And, the people that are speaking up for other people that have lived here and been here for, 20, 40 years and lead a good life and all of that. And I think about, how does that play in to that? It's very complex, because no matter where you take it down to, there's a fear running through it. There's a basic fear.
Well, and one of those basic fears is, am I willing to acknowledge and work through the fact that I have a self-preservation thing in me? And so I would rather not get involved somewhere that, quote, doesn't involve me, because that may get me in trouble and something may happen to me And the reality is, it's already happening to me. Jesus said, if it's done unto the least of these, you've done it unto me.
Right.
If you do it to the least of these of the people, that's the same thing as standing in my presence and doing it. We are all one.
Right.
And so if somebody is being treated badly, if someone is being treated unfairly, if anyone is being allowed to treat people unfairly and meanly, then that means that, again, everybody is a part of that. Everybody becomes allowed to do that. Everyone becomes treated in those ways. So it's, yeah.
So in the face of all that's going on, like, how do we really keep our wits about us, do whatever social activism we need to do to combat what you just said, to to stand and to take a stand. How do we do that and stay out of fear?
Yeah. Well, I think that's part of also realizing the oneness that we're all in this together. We're all a part of the one thing. So what do I have to lose exactly? What could possibly happen that would take everything away? What if I was arrested for treason for preaching the idea that we're all one?
Mm-hmm.
The idea that different religions can exist because they're all people seeking to find their understanding of how to be in contact with the divine. Well, what would happen? I don't know. Would it be uncomfortable? Would it be terrible, if you will? Probably. But would I be diminished in some way by that?
Probably not. I mean, but so okay, that's one synopsis. The other day, I told you I went outside and there were like 5 military chopper helicopters flying over, and I just had the thought in my head, like, wow, this doesn't make me feel safe. It was a different thought than general, like, oh, I wonder what they're doing, and maybe they're working on something at the base, or maybe da da da. I had the thought that it could be anything that I didn't know. And so those two things seem different to me. Like, yeah, you get arrested for preaching, da, 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 da. But like then I was thinking about it last night when we were watching something. I was like, what if it was really like all those movies you see with Hitler and people hiding in their houses and putting people in the basement, and and would that be so bad? Maybe it wouldn't be. Maybe it just seems like it. But I mean, it feels different to me than what you said.
Well, it would be bad, but it would be bad in the sense of what we believe is the way we, quote, should live, the way we should be able to function. But also, what else would be happening? What kind of connections, what kind of ways can you find love when you are actually willing to either take someone in or be taken in by someone?
Right.
Right? I mean, wow, what an opportunity that we never had. And does that diminish who we are, or does that allow us to become more of who we are to be? Is that the way we want to become more of who we are? No, I don't think so. But we need to look at finding that way to become more of who we are. So if we don't want to end up there, we have to do that work ahead of time so that we don't have to go there to get there. Don't have to go there to get there. I said it.
All righty then.
Wherever there is.
Well, no, it makes sense. And that's also just our story of what's good and what's bad and what's not, and how it's been portrayed in a movie or whatever. Oh, it's complicated, folks. It's very complicated. But But it's a good thing to ponder. And so, I mean, why can't we be friends? I guess the answer is we can be if you're willing to not know everything, if you're willing to learn, if you're willing to be open, if you're willing to stay awake, and
if you're willing to make friends with yourself, with all of yourself, even the parts you're not so sure you like, figuring out how to be in relationship. And that's what Rockin the Love's all about, being in relationship. And for us to continue in relationship and to know that we're in the oneness with everything and we're all connected, we have to find the way to understand that about who we are in order to move into that space and allow it to expand to those around us, I believe.
we believe. So I guess this is your invitation to step into that place and maybe just ask yourself a few more questions about where you can be more loving, more tolerant, more compassionate, more open to learning about yourself, and not making anybody wrong, not beating yourself up about it, but really just opening that space up for more love.
Yeah, it's not about trying to figure out who wronged you and how that traumatized you and whatever else. It's about understanding yourself and having compassion for things that may have happened to you, and then being responsible for how you live now and allowing that to somehow become a gift in your life. Whatever's happened so far in your life, whatever it is, I thought my world was over when I divorced my children's mom. And it wasn't. Because I found you.
Yay.
And then you had a birthday. Oh, that was today.
Well, I invite you all to be a part of my birthday and just rebirth a piece of yourself, re-examine, relook at it. And yeah.
Find that place, though, where you know that you're loved inside. That's the key.
And whatever you do, keep on rocking the love.
Absolutely.
Because the world needs it more now than ever. All right. And we will see you in March 2025. See you next week, everybody. Bye.